From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us midweek for your MTN statewide news. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, just one day after the state reached a record high 80 new confirmed COVID-19 count, today that number drops to 44. Gallatin County reports 19 new cases, and Yellowstone County, which saw 55 new cases yesterday, reports just 5 today. Bighorn, Lewis and Clark, and Silverbow counties each reported 3 new cases. The total confirmed active cases at this hour is 540. Now, no word yet today on more potential positive or negatives from Canyon Creek Memory Care in Billings. The long-term care facility announced 58 confirmed positives yesterday, pushing Governor Steve Bullock to issue an emergency order. Now, testing is now mandatory for visitors to be allowed in senior facilities, as Canyon Creek is one of 5 facilities across the state, he says, that denied free testing. Now, visits are already on hold in Yellowstone County after positives in several senior facilities last week. Well, along with the 58 positive tests at Canyon Creek, 33 people, mostly staff members, have tested negative there. Another 24 people are now waiting for results. Well, Flathead Indian Reservation will continue its shelter-in-place order indefinitely. This decision comes after tribal health officials announced a number of presumptive positive cases yesterday. Incident command officials say there's potential community spread COVID in the Mission Valley, and with limited first responders and emergency health professionals, officials say extending the shelter in place is the safest way to move forward. Currently, there are 22 active cases in the Mission Valley, and all of the contacts have been notified. Well, as numbers grow across the state, counties are taking new measures to slow the spread. Tomorrow in Missoula, the health department will meet and will likely make face masks mandatory in public places. Whitefish passed a resolution strongly encouraging people to wear masks, but it won't be mandatory. Lewis and Clark County banned gatherings of 250 or more, and any gathering over 50 must involve the health department. And the Department of Health in Butte is undergoing massive hiring, looking for people to help with contact tracing. They also need delivery drivers to take test samples to the lab in Helena. And in Gallatin County, the commission is writing a letter to the Board of Health urging it to make stricter guidelines for social distancing. Well, now time to check in with meteorologist Ed Mcintosh, and it's going to be a bit breezy today. Ed.
That's right. You're going to pick up the winds a little bit, but downturn the temperatures a bit, and we're not looking for the severe storms that we've had. Let's head in towards next week. The Climate Prediction Center of the National Weather Service showing a trend of the Pacific Northwest towards cooler than average temperatures. We'll see some ups and downs over the next few days, but early next week, well, most of the nation stays pretty warm. We'll be trending maybe a few degrees cooler, especially in northwest Montana. Meanwhile, most of the nation through the interior will be drier than average, but we could lean a little bit wetter across the northern portion of the state. Question is, will it be dry enough to help us out with any wildfire situations? We'll talk more about that and a closer look at the forecast details coming up.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, school leaders across the state are just hoping students are back in the buildings this fall. But when schools do reopen, things will certainly be different. Education officials say in the larger districts, high school and middle school students may stay in the same classroom for the entire day. Instead, the teachers will switch rooms to limit the number of people in the hallways. Now, classes with very few students enrolled may be done entirely online. At elementary schools, half of the kids may have to stay home for part of the week doing remote work before switching with classmates at the end of the week. Officials say these moves would make contact tracing much easier.
You've got a group of 30 students together. Don't slice that deck and resort it 6 or 7 times a day, or you will not be able to track who saw who and who was in proximity to whom, and you won't have an effective way of isolating the impact of a positive COVID infection.
Leaders say no matter how classes are reshuffled, masks will likely be required along with daily health screenings and temperature checks. Well, even as America is setting new daily records for coronavirus cases, the Trump administration is pushing states to reopen their schools. Vice President Pence and the White House Coronavirus Task Force held another briefing today. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
President Trump is stepping up his calls to reopen schools in the fall, tweeting this threat may cut off funding if not open.
We are ready to work with the leaders in your school system and in your state to find a safe and responsible way to reopen your schools.
But the president says he disagrees with CDC guidelines on reopening schools safely, saying they are expensive and impractical.
We can reopen our schools safely with what we know, and it's really simple practices of common sense. It's social distancing. It's wearing face coverings when you're in a setting that you can't social distance, and it's practicing good personal hygiene.
The president also continues to tout a lower death rate from the coronavirus, but the government's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says Americans should not let their guard down.
It's a false narrative to take comfort in a lower rate of death. There's so many other things that are very dangerous and bad about this virus. Don't get yourself into false complacency.
President Trump pushed back against Dr. Fauci in an interview with Greta Van Susteren.
Well, I think we are in a good place. I disagree with him. You know, Dr. Fauci said don't wear masks, and now he says wear them. And he said numerous things. We are going to be in 2, 3, 4 weeks. By the time we next speak, I think we're going to be in very good shape.
Dr. Fauci tells CBS News he was told to attend today's coronavirus task force meeting virtually, not in person. He is not expected to participate in the media briefing following the meeting. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
Well, the Trump administration will host Mexico's president at the White House this afternoon, where coronavirus and trade are expected to be the topics of discussion. The Trump administration has officially noted Congress and the United Nations. Our country is leaving the World Health Organization. In a letter, the administration says it will begin a one-year withdrawal. President Trump accuses the WHO of aiding China in covering up the origins of the virus. Some lawmakers and health experts voiced their frustrations with the president's decision to withdraw during a pandemic. Well, the Bureau of Reclamation here in Montana has reversed course on changing the names of 2 Canyon Ferry campgrounds. MTN received a statement from the Bureau of Reclamation that states it will not be changing the names of Chinaman's and Confederate campgrounds due to public feedback. At the beginning of July, tape covered the letters on the signs of the 2 campgrounds, naming them Campground 1 and Campground 2. Area residents MTN spoke with strongly disagreed with the change. MTN has reached out to the Bureau of Reclamation to ask why the Bureau wanted to change the name, who made the decision, and why there was no public comment period on the matter. Now, we have yet to receive a response addressing those questions and have filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the Bureau of Reclamation. Well, the trend of rising craft beer sales in stores seems to be holding up. MTN looked into the idea that if the recession continues, will people switch to cheaper options? Jeremiah Johnson of the Jeremiah Johnson Brewing Company Productions and Packaging Facility in Great Falls says he's just going to remain positive.
You know, I'm an optimist, and I don't really see that happening. I think the general trend in beer consumption, at least from my viewpoint, is that more and more people are enjoying craft beer. I don't necessarily see a decrease in the consumption of craft beer on a local level. I guess nationally it could have that effect in certain areas, but again, we're optimistic about our future.
And Johnson says the company packages more than 80% of its beer, and it's done very well since COVID-19 came into play. Well, we have more ahead on your noon news, including a twist to Governor Steve Bullock's way of promoting the importance of wearing masks. The time now is 12:09, but first, Ed Mcintosh is in next with your statewide weather forecast.